Here we are to another episode of the Awareness Club Talks. Today, as well, with Anna and Alina. And we decided to take the theme of the power of sovereignty. As we are passing through life, I think it's very important for each one of us to understand what is sovereignty, how do we benefit out of it, why it's important, and how it's changing our life. So, diving right into it?
Totally.
Let's start with a small description. And how would you define sovereignty?
To define it in briefly or shortly, I would say that sovereignty is a state that you obtain after you are truthful enough with yourself, decondition from what has been conditioned upon you since childhood through the environment, the family, the school, the society, the tribe overall. Humanity as a tribe in itself with all its layers. And sovereignty, I think it's the act of overpassing this conditioning and coming into one's truth and respecting that truth, some sort of honoring oneself. And that state brings the same in others, I think, or at least it inspires them.
I loved that definition. I would just add that it's maybe acting out of your center and in resonance with your integrity.
So sovereignty is something, it's the internal truth?
It's being connected to that internal truth and acting probably from that space, in my opinion.
I totally resonate.
And what does it happen when we act with sovereignty?
I would say you live a more aligned life. Doors open and good things are coming your way.
Sounds very simple.
It is simple once there, I think, because I think the most energy we are spending without realizing it's playing a role. That it's more life and draining, energy draining, so life consuming, than being who you are, how you are, and being aligned with what you have to do or acting from one's center. For me, this was, I think, or it still is sometimes very challenging, and I'm happy you brought it up, because I think in the world today, the most important thing when it comes to sovereignty and even integrity, it's to be able to return to one's center, because I think even daily we may be swiped away at least a few times by whatever reason. And this is not a problem in the end, but being able to come back to that point, it's, I think, the key.
Okay, so let's set up the frame, because if you tell to somebody that was never questioning sovereignty, if you say to speak from your inner truth and to speak with and to act with what do you feel aligned, everybody will say, yes, I'm doing that. So I don't think many people will feel that they are not speaking from their own truth. So what stays in front of our sovereignty? What type of elements we can describe in order for people to relate and to see where on the way we are losing our sovereignty since we are born until this moment in life, whatever that is, in terms of different kind of elements that come from different sources and are having an imprint, taking us aside from acting with sovereignty.
Wow, what a journey. Well, I think conditioning in itself represents this losing of one's contact with its true identity. And I think as we were sharing a few days ago, everything goes back to safety. When and you shared it very beautiful with me, that most of the time, or the most, not necessarily problems or issues a person has or the masses have, it's related to security. So we trade parts of ourselves in different stages of life, mostly from childhood, because we need to be loved, accepted, approved. So we cut pieces from ourselves to just fit in. Because if a child is very loud, for example, and the parent has a problem with phonic stress, let's put it this way, he will need to cut his way of expressing to just fit into the standard of the parent if the parent is not aware enough that it's going to limit its own expression.
Just 1 second, let's do differentiation. What is this different from education?
Education, it means when you go outside. Education, it is the step in which you go and you meet the world. This is the inner world. This is where you learn to regulate yourself through the mirrors that your parents are. Or we know that a mother is responsible for the primary caretaker. It's responsible for the regulation of an infant. And this starts in the womb and it goes up to 3 years of age, when the two hemispheres are working together into learning the child how to regulate. If the primary caretaker it's not regulated, then we will have different styles of attachment. So, but that's why I started with this part. So in childhood, it's different than when you go to the school or when you go outside society. That it's another type of cutting. You fit in, you need to belong, it's another thing. So yeah, this is, at least in this first part of our life, we are trying to fit into our family and learn to regulate. And here we need to be in safety. And if it's needed, we cut parts of us in order to feel safe around our grown-ups.
So we start losing our sovereignty as we advance in life. We start from childhood and we are receiving a type of education. Yeah, you don't scream you don't go on the floor when you don't receive something, or this type of which is happening in the childhood. As we grow older, what else is happening? What are other elements where we lose our sovereignty?
Oh, I think maybe also in relationships. Especially when you're young and you've been conditioned and maybe you act out of a place of a people pleaser, as what happened to me most of the time, forgetting yourself for someone in order to please others before you please yourself. I think you lose a bit of your sovereignty as well, as I would also define it as authenticity with boundaries. So I think relationships being the workplace, as you need to fit in, you need to suit a certain image in order to fit in. And the more you try to fit in this society, I think the more you lose your sovereignty.
So one second, how do you fit in without losing the sovereignty?
That's a very good question. I am not sure that you can fully fit in to what is expected in society if you keep your sovereignty today. As this society, in my eyes, in my opinion, is not the healthiest and is not asking humanity to be their best selves for themselves. For society, we, of course, but yeah.
I would say that what you said, it's perfectly described. And that's why it's all this thing about fitting in rather than see what kind of shape you have, and see with that shape where you can fit. Not try to put yourself into a shape. So you will try to push yourself into that shape, and eventually you will hurt more. And at the end you will say, I had enough of trying to be fitting into this form. Rather, I will have to find what form I have, where can I put this form to fit in properly. But this is very rare. It's not rare. I think it's coming. I think we are, and this is the beauty of our times. I think we are in those times in which everybody is invited to step into their sovereignty. So therefore, we are letting go the concept that we have to fit in. First, we have to see who we are. And actually, this is the first step of sovereignty. It is learning, it's like understanding the core of our essence. And for that, we need brutal truth and honesty with oneself. Or at least this is how everything started with me. I was sure all my life that I'm very honest. And I was very honest, but less with me. And I think this was the turning point of my change. The fact that if I truly and honestly ask myself these questions, would I respond the same? And when I did that, it struck me.
It's a very subtle differentiation because you are my partner and I know you well. If I would have asked you a few years ago if you are sincere,
yes,
you would have said yes.
Yes, totally.
So what's the difference?
So the difference is that there are, speaking about these layers of conditioning, and you said about self-centered. Well, I knew that in a relationship, and let's put it very direct and personal in the sense, okay. I knew that in a relationship, you have to be kind, you have to be loving, you have to be supporting, you have to be, right? But at one point, if you keep on trying to be rather than in the sense of fitting, rather than how you truly feel and what you truly need, it's like that moment, when you come and say, hey, would you like to come in the city? Let's have a drink. And I said, well, actually, I would love to stay home, do a shower, and maybe go directly to sleep. And many times, as you know, I said, yes, why not? Let's go. This is people pleasing, as you were saying before, and this is a conditioning as well from the childhood that we learned early, that in order to feel safe and loved and appreciated, you have to understand what everybody else needs, and you look the least in what you need. So in my desire to be next to you, to share the moment with you, to support you, I have forgotten about my real needs and I put them on hold. Well, if you constantly do something that it's not as well nourishing you, your true needs as a being, you kind of arrive to a point of complete burnout. It's an emotional burnout, it's an energetical burnout, and so on. And you know the stages. And the beautiful part and terrifying part in the same time is that when you start asking those questions, do I really want to go out? And and on inside it's no. But how can I say that? It's that moment when. So for me, everything started with an interview with Marta Beck that I saw. And I committed to myself to be honest with myself and then to express my needs to everybody around me.
And so here. Just to close this chapter, because I would like to pass on a different side of things, but here, how your life changed?
Oh, it changed dramatically from all points of view.
And what was the response from the external world?
Well, I knew from the beginning that all the closest friends and people that I have will feel the difference in me because they were not used to, as I was not used to it, that side of myself that was starting brutally saying, no, thank you, I would rather not. Well, all the time I was there and happy and joyful and so on. But for the persons that knew me less, it was a pleasure to directly be who I am without trying to downgrade, if I can say, on my kindness or on my perceived kindness or the one that I was trying to show. And some relationships were shooken, others were becoming more close and so on. So yeah, but now everything is fine.
So since the beginning we were speaking about fitting in the childhood, fitting in relationships, and in telling the truth and so on. But how one can lose sovereignty by giving it to another person voluntarily or involuntarily?
Oh, wow.
How, without even being aware that it's your sovereignty, you are giving it, or you are just letting it into the air, and others will fall into the place or into the role of taking it and using it.
So I think it's when you act more out of fear than out of love in that moment, as you are fearful maybe to lose the attention, to lose the love, to lose the belonging to a group. So in order to keep the connection, I think this is how you give it up without even noticing it. As in the end, you just want to be a part of a community, you just want to be loved, and you just want to be safe. So I'm not sure if this answers your question.
Let's say that I never went into introspection. It's the first time when I'm hearing about sovereignty. How I can really know if I own my sovereignty or not?
Maybe trying to look at how you feel when you leave a group of person, when you leave a situation. Does it let you feel depleted? Are you more tired, or are you more energized, or are you more neutral? You know, maybe start to look at these little directions and notice if you feel at peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%, yes, I would say at peace. For at least in my case, being at peace, for me, it's a sign of integrity and sovereignty in the place or situation that I am. And that allows us to act from the center of our being rather than from fear, from scarcity, from lack, from everything else.
So if we arrived here, what is the relationship between sovereignty and presence?
Well, it's a direct presence, I think. You can't be sovereign without being present, because...
But you can be present without being sovereign?
I don't think so.
Maybe not fully present, yes. But a shade of present.
Yes. We don't have to be 24 hours present, right? That would be, it's too much of an effort for a human being to not disconnect even from time to time for reasons of literally resting or conserving the energy in the sense. But being present in the interactions and feeling everything that happens into the body, into the emotional state, and who's sensitive enough, and I hear more and more people are becoming more and more sensitive to the energies around, to the emotional imprint of a situation or an exchange between people.
And what is the impact if somebody else has your sovereignty or is taking advantage of it? How this will show up so people can recognize patterns?
I think this we need to go back to energy goes where attention flows. No, is it this? I think this is what you call it. So I don't think people take over your sovereignty in a conscious way. Maybe society is, but this is another discussion.
For me, it's very clear. If you stay connected to the news, if you stay connected to the gossips of the society and to the
social media.
Social media, yes, thank you.
So what is with social media and sovereignty?
What a topic, huh?
How many hours have you got?
Yeah, yes. But if I will resume it in a very simple way, you consume what you need to be.
What you project you want.
What you project you need to be, not who you are. So if you are watching those accounts with amazing lifestyle, it's a bad thing to watch things about amazing lifestyle, amazing trips, or people who are developing that very polished, extra fantastic, spectacular, all the time good, and that is not real life, huh? People have ups and downs, they have emotions, even if they show it or not, it's that. So when you consume fake, you are actually fake. And I'm not saying that those things are not happening, but they are not happening to that extent. So that is one thing. If you and you spark from there envy, which is actually one of the most poisoning emotion that humanity has, sparks jealousy, which is primordially a very good emotion, jealousy, because it triggers to you that you might lose your place in the community or in a tribe. But when it's because I don't have that, or that person has more of that, and so on. And when you compare yourself with everybody there that has this and that, then you will not going to be able to discover who you are inside. So if you're kept on the news, on the social media, that is the easiest way to lose yourself.
But let's going even further. If you are looking into something that is more elevated, like Buddhist monks, or like a guru, or like a enlightened person, is happening the same?
Well, yes, but on another level.
Because in the end, it doesn't matter what are the...
To whom you give your authority in the end, that's the thing.
Yes.
Are you able to keep your authority or give your authority?
Yes.
For me, it's exactly this. I have my authority. That means that I'm responsible for my life, for what I think, for what I feel, and for what I choose. When you place your authority in somebody else's parcel, regardless of it's a priest, a monk, a teacher, a parent, a friend, a guru, a therapist, everyone can be guided, but there is a limited point. And if somebody does not let you go because you might still need, it means that there is a contract there of authority.
And in order to differentiate, what is the difference between this and inspiration? Because we can look for it as inspiration and as guidance, diversification, if you want, variety, yeah? So what is the limit, healthy limit between inspiration and losing your authority?
I think it all starts with the intention behind it, the intention you set on what you consume. Is it to inspire yourself? Is it to keep you out of boredom? Is it for quick dopamine, as we spoke of social media? So I think it's a very conscious choice you make. That's the difference. It's not, I'm bored, or I cannot sit in silence, so I'll consume. It's more like, I have this idea and I would like to push it further and see what the world has to say about it. So I will inspire. And I think that's the thing behind it.
Passing from this field that I think we all understood, from social media and online and looking at others, what is the society impact on us, and how we are losing our sovereignty at this level?
So we live in a society that is more fear-based, in my opinion, now with all that is happening. On the news, we do not share the birth of a new animal. We share about death, we share about war, we share about poverty, and all these things that keep us a bit scared, I would say.
A bit is quite kind expressed. No, it's keeping us in deep fear, because fear, it's easier to control. With fear on board, it's easier to control. This is nothing new, huh?
And yet we are living in the best times of humanity.
Totally.
We really evolved to arrive here, and we are still on a mass fear-based system. Huh?
It's called post-traumatic stress disorder, which is on a global scale.
I think today's most used thing when you ask people how they are doing is, I'm stressed. And I think stress is a very big part of fear, of a fear-based system where you give away your authority, because when you are stressed, you don't think of all the possibilities and opportunities you might have. You just focus on the essential, and you are mostly in a fear-based environment internally as well. So you get sick when you get stressed too long, you develop chronic illnesses, and there's no expansion. You don't keep your axis when you are stressed for too long, because stress can be very healthy for a while to give you a shot of adrenaline to keep things moving. But if you keep being stressed for days, weeks, months, years, due to all the external society factors, it doesn't connect you to your highest power.
I have seen Dr. Lisa Miller recently speaking about humanity as living one of the most materialistic times of our, let's say, tapestry. And the fact that we are actually spiritual beings, and by spiritual beings, I don't mean esoteric, but literally beings that are innate with a third of our brain since we are born to connect and be as an antenna for our connection with God, with existence, with the Creator, as it can be named in different ways, which actually it is being connected with our center, with something that lies deep between in us, and that is the first connection, that it's centering us and it's placing us into safety. There is actually where the safety starts in first place, starts inside. Sometimes we see people and we say, oh, look what the crisis management skills this person has, because there is such a turmoil and it's terrible things are happening on the outside, and manages to maintain calm, to maintain focus, and navigate with grace to different experiences. So first of all, I think that because of the society's way of pushing humanity towards so much consumerism, I think it's called, we are pushed to believe by the scientists that, not in this moment, but how we evolved up to here, right? Is that if I can prove you this is real. If I can't prove you what I feel or unexpected events, that is not real. So we literally rejected or repressed everything that we were feeling. We even learned to repress the emotional system. That in itself, it was bad. So starting from here, feeling the emotions, it's feeling connected actually to the soul. This is how we connect with our soul, is through our emotions. The body and the mind are more physical, let's say, in the sense. So then if we lived so much into this world in a materialistic way, and we know that if we turn back to that part, we basically reconnect with that third part of the brain, that it's highly spiritual, it's an antenna of being able to listen, to stay in quietness, to stay in peace, regardless of the storm outside. And this is actually the main invitation that I have from the bottom of my heart, from starting myself and to everybody else, to be able to stay as much time there and to avoid everything that it's corrupting or degenerating that state of peace, of love, of harmony, and shared cooperation between human beings.
Perfect. Is the perfect stage to enter into a discussion about how we get to regain our sovereignty. Because we were speaking until now about all these different layers, and maybe some people are relating with the stuff in the childhood. Maybe other people are knowing that they are not completely sovereign because of their parents, one parent or not, and control being made by financial aspects, by emotional aspects, and so on. What would be a step-by-step to regain sovereignty and to, in the end, discover what really means sovereignty? Because once you are becoming aware of more and more things, your understanding of that concept elevates to other levels that were never there before. So let's take it step by step, from simple to complex.
I would maybe start with if someone is not really connected to his axis yet, I would start breathing and naming my emotions, as a lot of emotions are sometimes a big question for a lot of people that are feeling them and that they cannot really name them. So getting back to them, to what they feel, and yes, going back to the body and less to the head. As I think it was something I heard about dating. When you leave a date, you should ask yourself, do I like them and not did they like me? So shifting a bit your attention from the exterior to the interior world and probably starting with how you feel. And the more you connect to your feelings and sensations, the more you can explore and the more I think you can learn to connect back to that axis, to that center. What would you say?
For me, probably the most important was to understand what means to be honest or truthful to yourself. Because I was believing I got that right? It was quite far away. And that was, I think, for me, the first step. Then I learned to do what you have explained, to start putting the perspective from me, not at all in an egoistic way, but in a very healthy way in which I don't cut my needs to respond. And I think the third one that for me it's very important, and I'm still working on it, in the sense that I became more rigorous in naming or defining my system of values. Because many times we can believe that what we healed, what we evolved, it's enough. But if we don't revise the values on which or the limiting belief system, we can easily sometimes fall back into less of what we have achieved as state of percentage of sovereignty. And obviously there are multiple layers. There is sovereignty to the self, as I consider it, the first layer of truth, and then it comes the emotional system in relationship with the dear ones or the world as it is. Then you have societal sovereignty, and then you can choose your level of sovereignty, from going completely remote with an autonomous house and do your work or whatever studies, whatever research, or good to humanity from a completely detached way of society. I don't necessarily support one way or another. I know for sure that not everybody will run and do this very detached form of being isolated, which, by the way, isolation and sovereignty, it's quite a topic as well.
If life has something to show you, it will show you anyway, no matter if you are closing yourself into the house and you are not speaking with anybody or not. And also that can be under layers very deeply from childhood, or for even before those 9 months before birth, which are so important, or the 9 months before getting pregnant even. So I think there are many different layers, and it's okay. I don't think it's a coloration. If I am alone, I will be more in touch with my sovereignty. I mean, it can happen on direct, close impact because you are not interacting with anybody. But in terms of the decisions that you are making, if the fundament it was already compromised, it will remain like that. What do you think?
I think that's a very good way to look at it. And the more you learn to sit in silence with yourself, the more you maybe can listen to what you or your inside has to say, as you don't outsource your sovereignty to someone else, as we are also I don't know if it's just the little girls being taught to, oh, you need to listen, you need to follow the guidelines, you need to follow all the rules, you need to follow the laws. Of course, a society without laws would be also a bit wild, huh? But to get back to yourself and to analyze maybe a bit your beliefs, as you said, and I really appreciated when you talked about the values, the value system, to really go back to, oh, what are my 5 main values today? And am I really acting out of these values, or where am I giving my power away? So yeah, I think I went down quite another road answering your question.
But from another point of view, we can lose our sovereignty through substances?
Oh, wow. I would say yes.
No matter if we're speaking about tobacco or many others, coffee, weed, and so on.
I think that every substance or every action, every person that we are attached to the point of we can let go of us just because we need there's a need that I am putting in this accent because it's really what it is. It's a need. It's like life cannot go on. The day it's not good without that cup of coffee or without that cigarette in the morning. And I was a smoker and I know how that went. I mean, and I found it one day unacceptable. I said, how is that? Like, what if tomorrow everything disappears? Like, how would I be still trapped into this? So sovereignty, it's the ability as well to know from inside out what you really need. And in an honest way, I don't need that because this is how people start the day, with coffee and cigarettes, or now with smoothies, and which are terrible because it's sugar in the end, metabolized and so on. But really to understand what your body needs. And this is my process in the past time, and in the last months. I quitted meat, I quitted dairy, I quitted eggs, and I'm eating different foods to see what makes me feel good, what makes me feel ugh. So this is as well a part. It sounds maybe for some people sounds something that should not done, but actually it should not be necessarily done or not pay too much attention. But actually this is how we are getting energy and how we learn where we lose our energy because of digestion, because of so on. So sovereignty really, it's at all levels. If there is something that you need so much that you cannot live without, or it's capturing you and you cannot detach, well, that it's a point where you should ask yourself what is lying behind this desperate need and what void do I fill with it.
A lot of times people are looking at wealthy families and they're saying, especially on Instagram, and they're saying, look, that life is perfect. Or look, there is no worries and they are having whatever they want. But now looking inside mechanism and speaking about our theme, how it is, for example, for a kid that is having rich parents, and it was evolving. He was going to a good school. He was creating his friends, his circle. He is going into the world, but he is still belonging to the family because of the status, because of the name of the family, because of the money involved, and so on. How does from that point getting ownership of the own to regain authority when there are so many links related to the context in which he is living?
I would say it's not something bad to be belonging to a family or to associate with a certain name, depending on what is happening inside of a family, of course.
But there are most of the times rules and control. that comes
in any family.
in any family?
In any family. So, yeah, that's a very good question. As I grew up surrounded by many wealthy children in wealthy families, and actually I noticed that these people growing up are the saddest or the emptiest, as they didn't get the love they needed. It was filled with something else, be it presents, presents like gifts, or money, especially money, and maybe not learning the values of what is enough, or how can I put this without having a center, if I can put it this way. So, pas de juste milieu. I'm not finding this in English. Not having a middle, a golden middle. Some of them managed wonderfully, but some of them got lost, especially in addiction, as they were compensating and filling the void of what was maybe missing in regards to the safety or something else, or belonging. So it is very easy, I would say, as a parent or a family member, to gain control over one's sovereignty when you give everything and the person hasn't learned to find it itself, if it doesn't.
Absolutely perfectly described.
Yes. Would you like to add on to that?
Well, I think you put the point exactly where it should be, and it is about that. It's actually when you take the privilege out of a person to do it for themselves. Actually, the best help you can get somebody, it is not to fish for them, but to teach them to fish, if it's about eating or if it's about anything else. And what you said inspired me in sharing a personal story about the misconception that I received from society. So when I was around my 20s, I was very determined to be successful in this world. And I asked myself, and I stood there like a very geeky person that was about to discover life. What do I have to do in order to be successful and to have a fulfilling life? Well, first, you have to work what you like to. Second, you have to have a relationship. Third, you have to have friends. Very good. I have my list. I have the will. Let's go, baby. 4 years later, after actually it was much more time until I reached the climax of my desires. I said, I would like to be a TV presenter. I would like to work in a foreign country. I would like to have this amount of money. I would like to have a stable relationship. And after, I think, 2 years, since I have literally checked all the boxes that I have set it for myself in conformity with what society said that I have to do in order to be happy and fulfilled, I went in my first form of depression. And it lasted quite a bit. And I asked myself, what was wrong with you? What is not enough with you? I mean, you have everything, even more than most of the people would want. And you're still not happy or not still enough. What's wrong with you? And I started that, whipping, like, oh, nothing is enough for you, and so on, whatever. So I went obviously into a even much greater down spiral of everything. But in the end, depression is very good because it leads you to understand what it is right, what it is not right. And I remember when I went and I told my mom, and I said, what is wrong with this world? I have done everything they said I should do to be happy, and yet I'm not happy. Why am I not happy? And she looked at me and she said, you know what? There is another part of life that it's called spirituality, in which you get to get closer to other layers of life, not only what I have to do this, do that, and get boxes checked, and try to see where that leads you. And actually, this is how everything started for me differently in 2007, 2008, I might say. And then we've met, and we were having the same interests and so on. And yes, and I had periods of life when I was more spiritual and less spiritual, and more materialistic, less materialistic, and so on. And finally now I found it, thanks God, that there is an equilibrium between all of this, and as much spiritual, as much down to earth you have to be, and so on. Otherwise you live on extremes that are not happy. And this is as well another form of not being sovereign, in my opinion, if you're too much in one side, because it's not centered, it's not aligned.
Switching the perspective, what is the difference between sovereignty built on resistance or built on love?
I think the sovereignty built on resistance is not the purest form of sovereignty, as it's still not coming from the best place, if we put it this way, probably coming from limiting beliefs, life experiences, and also the entire formatting that you go through in your childhood. So yeah, I think the real, true, authentic, raw sovereignty is based on love, and the rest is a good start.
Love towards oneself?
Yes, absolutely. Towards yourself, and probably towards everything that is. But I think you cannot, you can only love as deeply the outside as you can love yourself deeply on the inside. So yeah, there's a resonance in that.
And also going forward, how would you look through your eyes a world with more and more people being sovereign?
Oh, what do you mean? How the world would look like?
Yes.
Oh,
Change in the world.
A lot. And I think it's going to happen with time. I really hope so, if we keep the positive side of things, as the old systems are slowly collapsing, and there need to be a lot of destruction for it to be built again in another direction, in another way. So, as also what astrology is saying and everything, power back to the people, so more sovereignty. I think more people would live from the heart. I think more people would just let the mask fall off in order to fit in, and maybe create a place where you can just fit in by being you. That authenticity is not being judged. It's not, something negative or seen as weird, and more something that you strive to be, as it's in resonance with who you are.
Yeah. What you said was music to my ears. If I don't know if I can literally add something. I am fully agreeing, and I'm thanking you for sharing such a beautiful vision, because it is true that each of us is challenged in these moments to turn back towards us and to build everything from inside. We are all invited to step into our sovereignty and to quit giving our authority to the people around us, to society, to whatever. And as I believe that you are familiar with the concept of critical mass, once we are going to reach a specific number of people that are able to be who they are, the rest will not fear to be who they are as well, because I think sovereignty is as well maturity. It's a lack of judgment. It is a destigmatization. It's freedom. It's freedom in the most beautiful way. You are free, and this is one of the most beautiful things I have ever experienced. You may not have an easy life or the easiest life after you become sovereign, but for sure you don't feel that are strings upon you that you don't know why I am moving like that, because you already looked how everything is inside. You understand through that heart and reasoning how the world is, and that is freedom.
And not being anymore a puppet.
Not being anymore a puppet. And for that, it's worth all the time you need to take to see what's inside, to share it with the right people. And from here on, I think a very healthy and strong foundation for the future of humanity would come. And even with a bit of not necessarily understanding, but with the knowing that everything as it was, it served into that fear-based way of living for humanity until now. And I think humanity, it's maturing by stepping into their sovereignty, by understanding who they are, how they are feeling, why they are feeling, not blaming everybody else, and just build everything from inside out.
But also expecting that it will be a crash.
Well, we have to expect to be a crash. You cannot change something. I mean, I had to give up to my old identity, and that was not easy. Because even without knowing, I was stepping into patterns that are literally stored in my nervous system. And I was like, whoa, how did we arrive here? Here we go again. Okay, it's here. We are here because of this, because of that. But normally I choose now. And this is actually the beautiful part. Sovereignty, it's about choosing. You know that you're not forced anymore to give that answer. You choose. And this power, it's absolutely impressive, regardless of what happens around you. And I was afraid that I would lose even you if I would say what I have to say. And yet I dared, because I believe that you will understand eventually that I'm not mean. I'm just trying to find my way to myself.
Arriving to the end of this conversation, while you were speaking, I was thinking that the word sovereignty itself is not very used, it's not very common in our days' discussions. But I was thinking of the representation of, or how people are picturing the concept itself. And I think it's the black sheep. It's not being a sheep, thinking of the white sheep that are going all together, or being the black sheep.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
So, would you have anything to add?
Don't be afraid to be a black sheep.
Yes.
Oh, yes, totally. I have been there. I know how it feels, because it's a rebellion form that starts within inside, and it's first towards yourself, the one that was pretending to be honest. And yeah, but it's worth. It's I would choose to say, people are saying ignorance is bliss. Ignorance, it's prison. From multiple, and that's just me being kind. If I would be able to choose, not be able, if I would have to choose again, I would choose the same thing. I would go through the same things to just know, because I feel free, and that is, and no longer afraid, regardless of what's happening. And that's so beautiful. That's beyond my wildest expectations. Peace.
I hope that this talk was as pleasant and as inspiring as it was for us. And we hope to see you next time. Until then, support us, get part of the Awareness Club. Firstly, into maybe sharing our videos, into maybe liking, and give us your opinions, direct message or not.
Asking questions.
And until next time, be the black sheep.